Could we ever see another player manager in Major League Baseball? So there's not been a player manager since 1986 when Pete Rose did it. He actually did it for 3 seasons, 1984 through 1986. And over the history of Major League Baseball, there has been a ton of player managers throughout the years. It's very uncommon for today, obviously, because we haven't seen it in over 35 years. But early on in baseball, it happened a lot. And one of the main reasons for this is because teams thought they could save money by having a player be the manager. And I guess that thought process makes sense, especially back in the day when teams weren't making a ton of money. And I would go through the list of all the player managers over Major League Baseball's history, but the list is so extensive, I don't think I could actually go through them all and name them. But just know that a lot of them were from the 1800s and early 1900s. It really stopped being as common after like the 1920s, even though there was still a few after that throughout the 20s to the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, all the way to the 80s. It just became less and less common as the decades went on. But could we ever see it happen again in Major League Baseball today? I am not sure. I think it would have to be a very special circumstance to have a player be a manager again, just due to all of the analytics of today and how closely tied the manager is to the front office in baseball today. I think it would be really interesting how that would work. Because if you're a baseball fan, you know how different the managing position is in baseball today compared to, say, 30 years ago. It's no secret that a lot of the times, most teams, the manager doesn't even make out the lineup card. Sometimes the front office does, either through the analytics team or the GM or what have you. And then maybe the manager gets a little input. There's been instances where it's not always his call, where, say, 30 years ago, it was the manager's call 99% of the time. Now, of course, there's instances where owners or GMs try to interfere with that throughout the years. I get that, but I'm saying just in a general sense. And with how bullpens are utilized today, with how there's going to be a lot of new rules implemented coming into next year, I just don't know if a player could manage, because there is a lot on their plate. I feel like they do less technically, but they also do more from a personnel standpoint compared to what they used to back in the day. Again, in some avenues, yes, some avenues, no. It's just a different position than when it was, 20, 30, 40 years ago. So going forward, again, I think it would take a special circumstance where a player is possibly chasing a milestone, kind of like why Pete Rose kept playing and managing. It would have to be, for example, say Albert Pujols this season, where he's chasing 700 home runs and the Cardinals used him as a player manager. And that player also has to have a good rapport with ownership and the front office, the analytic team, etc. And I think if all those things align, we could see another player manager in Major League Baseball. But again, it would be a very rare circumstance. That's why we haven't seen it since 1986. And doing a little bit of research for this video, I did read in 1997 that the Blue Jays considered hiring Paul Molitor as a player manager in 1997. I thought that was quite interesting. Barry Larkin was almost a player manager in 2000. The ownership actually turned it down, but I think Larkin was semi-interested in it because he thought it was interesting, according to this quote on Wikipedia. And going into the 2012 season, the White Sox actually considered hiring Paul Konerko to serve as a player manager. So it does get brought up from time to time, it seems like, but it has not been a thing since 86 when Pete Rose did it. And like I was saying, it would take a special circumstance because, for example, Paul Konerko is a White Sox legend in his own right. Always seem to have a good rapport with ownership, GMs, etc. So that makes sense right there. Larkin, same deal with the Reds, lifetime Red, won a World Series there, Hall of Famer, etc., right? That would make sense. So it'd have to be a special circumstance, I think, and a special player that a team does love, all of Albert Pujols, Yadier Molina, something like that. Or you could even make an argument, even someone who's a bit younger, that it could have happened, I guess, in some alternate universe is, let's say, a Buster Posey could have been a player manager if he did not already retire. Say if he played for another 10 years, he could have been someone that ownership obviously loves in San Francisco, and they could have hired him as a player manager if he was chasing a milestone, say 2,500 hits or 300 home runs or something like that. He could have been the full-time manager, of course, and been a part-time player. DH a little bit, play a little catcher, play a little first, what have you. So for a position born out of necessity for teams to save money, it's interesting to see the evolution over the decades and many years of how the player manager has pretty much gone by the wayside. And again, I think it would take a special circumstance for us to ever see it again. Not saying that we won't, but again, a special circumstance. So I think it'd be really interesting to see. I hope it happens eventually one day. I think it'd be really cool to see again on the baseball field. So with all that that said, what are your thoughts on the player manager? Do you think we'll ever see it again? Let me know down in the comment section below. And while you're down there, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, that'd be greatly appreciated. Until next time, guys, everyone have a great day. Thanks for watching.